Welcome to the first legal Soundbites for 2023. Today we're looking at our most recent claim data and some of the current risk issues for our smaller and medium-sized insureds. There's often a big time lag between a mistake and a negligence claim, so the most recent notifications may not be due to the most recent mistakes. A focus on more recent errors, say those made in the last 2 years or so, may provide a clearer picture of the current risks in legal service delivery, and so the focus for risk effort. We'll first look at work area trends. Over the last 2 years or so, there have been increases in error shares for residential conveyancing and wills, trust and probate. These normally account for around 30% and 15% respectively of all our notifications, putting them regularly in the top 3 most notified work areas. There's also been a gentler trending up in company and commercial work, employment and property litigation, and residential conveyancing lending cases, but from much lower bases, often of just a few percent. Given that, we'll focus on the more frequently notified areas and their hotspots, what's going awry and where. First, residential conveyancing. Some of the hotspots here involve slips or lapses in process, in particular around searches and inquiries, so not making a search or making the wrong search, and completion and registration, late completion, failing to deal with requisitions, missing time limits around filing of SDLT returns. Overall, around 65% of errors involve slips or lapses in process. There's also evidence of advice failures on searches, incomplete or incorrect or no advice at all, and on title. There are also high levels of process failure in wills, trusts and probate, around 70% of cases. Examples include missteps in the formalities in drawing up and executing a will, missing time limits in tax matters and inheritance tax cases, failures in managing investments and realizing assets, and incorrect distribution of estates. Advice failure tends to be around tax matters and distribution. What are the risk takeaways? The first is an acknowledgement that this focus on recent errors is not foolproof. The data for the last few years will be added to over time as new notifications come in. Also, process-type failures tend to generate claims more quickly than, say, drafting or advice failure. There's also the potential effect of lockdown on the data, although that may be less of an issue as remote work has been adopted in some form since. That said, there are some signals in the data which are worth following up. First, the level of process failure, those slips and lapses. Potential here to reduce these with structure around the retainer. Use of checklists, say around searches and inquiries. Having a dedicated team to deal with post-completion matters, which might get missed. Delays leading to loss. Regular checks and reviews to ensure that outstanding issues get addressed in time and matters are progressed. Discipline around diarising actions, in particular around administration of estates. Process failures can involve human factors, in particular distraction and loss of focus due to stress, pressure, fatigue, high workloads. There are issues here around tracking capacity and supervision to spot evidence that someone might be struggling. As for advice failures, these are relatively less frequent, but can be driven by lack of knowledge or access to support. Also, the failure to limit the scope of the retainer, for example, whether or not tax advice will be provided. So something of what we've seen in our recent data and some controls to counter the risks.